Happy EEKtober, everybody. We are doing 31 days of scary movies, and today is day 24. I am your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker, and when I speak, my topic is something I call Take the Doughnut. It's another way of saying Carpe Diem. So it all comes from this weird thing that happened in college where I left an actual donut on a table, but that became an object lesson for me in what it looks like to leave opportunities behind. So I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take the donut. Now, from time to time, I'll issue myself a take the donut challenge. If there's something I want to do, I want to hold myself accountable to doing it. So I'll make it official. This time, I'm opening up this Take the Doughnut challenge to anybody who wants to join. So here we are, 31 days of scary movies, and we're all here together for day 24. We watched The Crow. Now, I would not classify this as a horror film. I would classify this as an action or a fantasy film. I put it in the not too scary category. I really wanted it to be on this list. I really wanted to talk about this film. And I felt like it's moody and atmospheric enough that it's okay to put it on a list like this, especially because I have a modified version of this EEKtober list that, people who want movies that are not too scary have at least, one each week that they can check into. And I wanted all of those films to be sort of balanced in different ways. And so The Crow felt like a good addition for that portion of the list. This was directed by Alex Proyas. It was written by James O'Barr, David J. Shaw, and John Shirley. I'm going to name most of the people who were in this film because I feel that this film deserves some special attention. So it obviously stars Brandon Lee as Eric Draven, Michael Wincott as Top Dollar, Ernie Hudson as Sergeant Albrecht, Sophia Sheenus as Shelley Webster, Rochelle Davis as Sarah, Michael Massey as Fun Boy, Lawrence Mason as Tintin, David Patrick Kelly as T-Bird, Angel David as Skank, Tony Todd as Grange, and Biling as Micah. I do wish that this would have been the only film in this series. However, there are more. There's like a separate series that's got The Crow Salvation, The Crow City of Angels, The Crow Wicked Prayer. There's also a 2024 reboot that's been made for this film. And all of this is based on a limited comic book series. And you can certainly feel the influence of that. Even the very first time I watched this movie, not knowing that this was based on a comic book series, I took a look at some of those shots of Eric Draven and they felt like they were envisioned in a comic book format and brought to life on screen. And then that's exactly what had happened here. So, look, although I don't feel that this is a horror film, I had some horrors on set, and that's really where I need to begin. Usually, I do this as a recap for all of the movies that I've been covering. Almost all of them have been recaps to this point, where I go through the scenes for the most part, might make some points about them up front. And I need to start there because it's, for me, impossible to talk about this film without thinking about or referring to the fact that there was a horrific on-set accident that led to a fatality of Brandon Lee. And I've never been able to separate watching this movie from that feeling. And I've never been able to sort of watch the movie without feeling kind of a strange, I don't know, a sadness over Brandon Lee. It's hard to watch this without wishing we could have seen more of his work, without wishing he would have survived the film, all the many things you could have wished. He was so young when he died. And so the deal is, he passed away. There was an accident on set during there's sort of like a sequence that happens where we're supposed to be seeing what happened the night that Shelley and Eric died. They're in their apartment, and the four troublemakers go into their apartment and they kill the two of them. And in that series, there was a prop gun on set that had not been properly maintained. And Michael Massey, one of the actors who played Fun Boy, was meant to shoot Eric Draven. So Fun Boy was meant to shoot Eric Draven, but something malfunctioned and something went wrong, and Brandon Lee was really shot. So, and he died. And you may notice at the end of this film, there's a, not a credit, but an in memoriam sort of, it's a for Brandon and Eliza. That's for Brandon Lee and his fiance, Eliza. They were set to be married weeks later. I mean, less than half a month after this. Those were the last, like some of the last scenes that they were shooting. They had held it all the way to the end. They weren't shooting in chronological order, so they had held them until the end of the shoot. And then he was supposed to get married right after. So it's just horrific what happened. I at one point I had actually looked up to see how Michael Massey was doing years ago, and I had found an interview with Michael Massey where he just looked haunted. And we're talking Michael Massey as a much older adult, who still looked like this was a defining moment in his life, and he was just haunted by what had happened on this set. And I also think it's worth noting that I lived in Seattle for 8 years, and I was sort of deeply immersed in, there was an event that I helped manage called the Asian Hall of Fame. And so Bruce Lee is certainly a very prominent figure in the Asian American community in Seattle. And so there's no escaping the, like, sort of the tragic loss of both of those men at such young ages. This had to be part of the film. This is absolutely a tribute to Brandon Lee, to the fact that they in fact put this movie out to begin with. And I don't feel comfortable seeing the other films that have the Crow name attached to them. I just can't. They might very well be good. I don't know. Feel free to let me know what you think if you've seen them. But for me, this is why I only am familiar with this movie in this world of movies. Having said that, a couple other notes that I wanted to share here. I think I mistakenly, when I was announcing EEKtober and I was announcing the list of movies that I was going to cover, I think I mistakenly said that this movie was supposed to be set in Seattle. I just associate it with Seattle. I believe it's set in Detroit. But boy, the vibe, it's rainy and it's moody and it's got the grunge music and it's got the rock music, but it certainly has a lot of the feeling that I associate with that city, Seattle that is, but it is a Detroit movie from what I understand. And the music piece of this is like, they got some, if you look at that soundtrack, it's got some good songs on it. We got The Cure, we've got Nine Inch Nails, we've got Stone Temple Pilots. They went all out on the soundtrack. So it really adds to, it feels very 90s to me. It really adds to the grungy feel of the city. Yeah, good choices all around with that soundtrack. Let's get into the scenes themselves. So we're going to start out on October 30th, which is going to be called Devil's Night, day before Halloween, being Devil's Night, or the night before anyway. We're going to see a cityscape, a lot of rooftops. We're going to see the city is burning on Devil's Night. And we're going to hear police scanners from all over the city. We're going to hear Sarah's voiceover, which will be mirrored at the end of the movie, where she's saying, people once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it and the soul can't rest. Then sometimes the crow can carry the soul back to put the wrong things right. My gosh, it's so hard to think about like how on the nose all of this was with the reality of what making this movie was. Okay, so that is the voiceover that we start with from Sarah. It instantly kind of gets us on guard for what we're going to be experiencing in this film. It's going to be a tragic death, or something so tragic that this crow is going to get involved. And that this sadness is going to stop the normal transition from happening. We're going to meet Sergeant Albrecht, who's standing in Eric and Shelley's apartment looking down. It's a top level apartment. It's got this beautiful window right on the corner of the building. And he looks down to the ground below where we're going to see Eric's body, his dead body. Shelley is in the apartment, but she is dying. She also has been attacked. This is now a crime scene. We're going to see photos of them happy all over the place. We're going to see photos of Eric's band. We're just getting little flashes of who these people are, but I do think there's something subliminal about how all this adds up. If you actually pause the screen, you can get a really good picture of like what their lives were together. But even if you don't, I think you get a real sense of that these are like full, rich characters with backstories and lives together. We also see a wedding invitation and a wedding dress in the apartment because the wedding was tomorrow night on Halloween. There's a crow who's looking over Eric's body. We're now going to meet another character. Sarah's going to skateboard up. She goes to see Shelley. Shelley is saying, where's Eric? Tell him to take care of Sarah, not knowing that Eric is already dead. Shelley and Eric, we're going to find out they're Sarah's friends. They've been taking care of her. As we learn a little bit more about her mother, Darla, we find Darla she hasn't been in the picture. She's been a neglectful mother. And so Shelley and Eric have very much been looking out for this kid. Sergeant Albrecht is going to comfort Sarah. Doesn't know her, but knows this is something that is hurting this child. We're going to then go to 1 year later. And the crow is now sitting on a rooftop. We're going to get more voiceover from Sarah. A building gets torched. All that's left is ashes. I used to think that was true of everything, families, friends, feelings. Now I know that sometimes if love proves real, if two people are meant to be together, nothing can keep them apart. We get Sarah collecting flowers from other people's graves. She's not taking all the flowers from one grave. She's sort of gathering up a flower each, just whatever they can spare. And then she's going to put a bunch of flowers on Shelley's grave and one right rose onto Eric's. It's raining. It's going to rain a lot in this film. And the crow is going to land on Eric's grave. All right, Sergeant Albrecht gets a hot dog. Sarah joins him there. This is probably a haunt they go to on a somewhat regular basis to catch up, and he can sort of keep an eye on Sarah and make sure she's doing okay. He buys her a hot dog. And we're going to see some troublemakers and what they're getting up to. So there's an arcade. We're going to get 4 characters, T-Bird, Skank, Tintin, and Fun Boy. They're causing mayhem. They're vandalizing. They're firing it up. Fire it up, fire it up. They're doing that. We've got the crow is watching Shelley and Eric's graves, and Eric bursts from the grave. He's in tremendous pain, just like being back in the world and seeing things and like touching things is giving him physical, like visceral memories and visions of things. So he's in pain. He's feeling very weak. It's been a long journey for Eric, wherever he just came from. And so the crow is now going to guide Eric to a dumpster because at the very least, this man can have some shoes. Even if he's undead, it's more comfortable to walk in shoes. So he's going to get some shoes from the dumpster. And then we're going to see our troublemakers driving past the hot dog joint that Sarah and Albrecht are currently at. And the arcade explodes because they were responsible for that for sure. Albrecht is going to run to it. And we're going to see the crow is leading Eric to an abandoned apartment. Oh, it's his old apartment building. He goes through the crime scene tape. He finds his old cat. How this cat has been surviving, I'm not sure. We're going to start seeing a lot of like red tones, red coloring around flashbacks of their previous life. We're going to see Shelley answering the door. And we're going to see those troublemakers, T-Bird, Skank, Tintin, and Funboy, they all come in and they're saying Department of Housing, and they're saying like code violations, safety hazards. So I guess Shelley was either spearheading or a significant part of sort of like the tenants rising up. And that's not good for these four and the person that they report to. So they're here to get rid of the problem. They start trashing the place. They're going to attack her. They beat her. They rape her. Eric comes in and finds this happening, and he tries to stop it, but there are four of them. And so, they're attacking Eric. We're going to get Tintin is going to throw a knife and it's going to stab Eric. We're going to see a couple of them getting shot, shooting Eric. So he's getting shot, like many gunshots landing in him. And then I believe it's Skank that's going to throw him out the window all the way to the ground below, and he will die. And Undead Eric is remembering all of this and feeling the pain of it all. But now, whatever he's got going on here, he can heal. Like any wounds to him can heal right now. So we are now going to see the troublemakers continuing to be troublemakers at a bar. They pull weapons on each other. Fire it up, fire it up. Darla, who is actually Sarah's mom, is going to bring over some drinks. We've still got Eric in his apartment. He is having memories of his relationship with Shelley based on seeing stuff in the apartment, seeing photos of them in the apartment. He sees a mask next to his mirror. We're going to see a bunch of really loving memories, them saying, "I love you," getting a kitchen fire on the stove and being like, "Well, I guess we'll eat from a restaurant tonight." He's gonna see some moments between Sarah and Shelley, like Sarah seeing Shelley try on her wedding dress, Sarah and Shelley having pillow fights. We're gonna see a little bit of Eric and Shelley making love. And then, all of this is happening, and Eric sees this face mask. And so he's going to paint his face like the mask, very like white, and then the black over the eyes. And all of that's happening to great song choice. It's Burn from The Cure. And then he's going to stand in the window of this, I'll call it a penthouse apartment. I don't know if I have a top floor apartment, but it's that beautiful window, and there's just so many great shots that revolve around that window. Okay, we are going to see Tintin, one of the troublemakers, bringing stolen items to a pawn shop. And the owner's going to lowball him, and he tells Tintin to lock up on the way out. So obviously this transaction between these two people happens a lot. And the Crow, meanwhile, is leading Eric over rooftops to Tintin. Always cool scenes when we can get Eric running across the rooftops. It's like parkour before I knew the word parkour or that activity existed. So all of that's happening to Dead Souls by Nine Inch Nails. There are a couple songs that I spotted early on that I really was into, and I've been naming them here. So we're going to see Tintin go into the alley, and we're going to hear that Eric is laughing, and Tintin hears this and then sees Eric. And so Tintin's getting ready to battle him. Whoever he is, I want to kill you. So he's getting ready to fight. Eric's fighting him. He's trying to disarm him. Eric says, "I want you to tell me a story. A man and a woman in a loft a year ago. You killed them on Halloween." And Tintin's very proud of this accomplishment. He's like, "Murder is fun. You'll learn all about it," meaning I'm going to kill you now. So Tintin is throwing knives at Eric, and then is disturbed when he realizes that Eric has the power to bat them away midair or even stop it right in front of his face. So that's not good. He's going to throw it back, and he is going to pin Tintin to the wall. And now he's going to get ready to put a bunch more knives into Tintin. Eric says, "Victims, aren't we all?" We're going to get a lot of one-liners from Eric. He's all about the one-liners. Him and Freddy Krueger, all about the one-liners. Except Eric is a nice guy, okay? He's just getting revenge for the terrible thing that happened to him and his very lovely fiance, okay? All right, so T-Bird and Skank and Funboy now are at the club because they're missing one. And we're also going to just briefly meet sort of the the head honcho of this whole situation. His name is Top Dollar. And there's a woman always with him, Micah, highly sexualized. And we're told at one point she's his sister, and she surely is not. And if she is, that's highly disturbing. So there is a dead woman who is with them. And Micah has a bit of an eye fetish. She's really into this woman's eyes. And that's what we know about them so far. We'll learn more. Give it a minute. We're going to see Sarah skateboarding to the pit, the bar, to find her mom, Darla, who is currently flirting with Fun Boy, and send Sarah away. That's the kind of mother she's being right now. So we're going to see the crow flying. We're going to go to the pawn shop, and that's where Eric's going to turn up next. So the owner is saying they're closed, but Undead Eric comes in. Nothing is closed to Undead Eric. He breaks the door open, and it almost looked like there were like wings behind him the way the door breaks open. He's going to quote a little bit of the Raven. Suddenly I heard a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. He's like, you heard me rapping, right? Like I was here at the door, you didn't get it. So Eric is going to ask for an engagement ring. He's specifically looking for his engagement ring that he gave to Shelley. And the owner doesn't want this nonsense. He shoots Eric, and then the wound heals right in front of this guy's eyes. So they're going to do some fighting, and then but Eric's winning. Eric's winning the whole time. He gets to a point where he stabs the guy's hand through his own desk, and he can't even move now. And so he's like, but really, where are the engagement rings? So he's going to get pointed in the right direction, and he starts going through the rings. He mentions that he got the tip to come here from Tintin. He confided in me before he ran out of breath. Meanwhile, we're seeing back at that crime scene, Tintin's being wheeled away on a stretcher full of knives, just knives all in his sternum. Sergeant Albrecht finds this, and he notices that there is a crow drawn in blood on the wall behind him. So meanwhile, Eric's going through rings at the pawn shop, and he has a vision of the proposal he made in his attic. Super dangerous proposal where they go up the door and there are lit candles all over the wooden planks of the attic. It's a choice. But it's also very romantic. And so he has that just anytime he's touching anything, he can get all of those memories sort of imported into himself. So we're going to see him. He's got what he needs. He starts spilling gas all throughout the pawn shop. And he's going to find out where the rest of Tintin's friends are from the owner. And he's throwing the rings at him. He's saying, this is, these, one for each of the lives that you helped destroy. He has no love lost for this pawn shop owner. He's not going to kill him because he wants this guy to send a message back to whoever he's working with. He wants to send a message back to the rest of the troublemakers so that they know to be afraid. Your job is to tell them the rest of them that death is coming tonight. Eric Draven sends his regards. He's going to take a guitar on the way out, and then he's going to blow up the pawn shop. As you do. Sarah's at the pub. Darla and Funboy just flat out go upstairs. Like, Darla is not particularly worried about her kid. I'm led to believe that this is Funboy's apartment. We're going to see Sergeant Albrecht is going to see Eric outside the pawn shop. I guess Albrecht was one of the closest people to this new crime scene at the pawn shop. And so he gets there, he sees Eric, and he's like, don't move or you're dead. Eric's like, I say I'm dead and I move. One-liners. Shoot if you will, Officer Albrecht, but remember me? Remember Shelley Webster? Albrecht's like, she's dead. Well, what about it? And Eric's saying, well, T-Bird, he had a friend who shouldn't have played with knives, but he was dead the moment he touched her a year ago. They're all dead. They just don't know it yet. So Eric is absolutely on a mission to get revenge for Shelley and for himself, but mostly for Shelley. And maybe that is what will let him rest in peace with her. So Albrecht is going to, as interesting as this is, he's going to see people looting the pawn shop. And just as he's distracted by that, Eric just disappears, gone. We're going to see Top Dollar and Micah again. We need a little more information about these two. So she's currently burning an eye from the woman that was dead next to them in the first scene we saw them in. She's assessing his energies. We also find out that apparently the eye just has the most power. So I don't know, there's some mystical stuff happening here. And then also there's a pile of Coke in front of him. And we're going to see Grange comes in, who works for Top Dollar. He says, hey, the pawn shop burned down. Top Dollar's like, yeah, I didn't say that was okay. Who did that? Tell me more. T-Bird is going to say that he didn't have anything to do with it. And also, by the way, Tintin died. So lots of things happening here that none of us know about. T-Bird is confirms that he's on shift for tomorrow, going to work for Top Dollar. Don't you worry about it. And Top Dollar wants Grange to find out what happened to the pawn shop, because he controls this city. So if things are happening that are not in his control, something's very, very wrong. We're going to see the crow flying. Sarah is skateboarding. She almost gets hit by a cab, but she's saved by undead Eric. And he has a flash of Sarah memories because he's grabbed her and pulled her out of the way. So Sarah's like, who are you? You supposed to be a clown or something? And then at one point she says, I wish the rain would stop just once. And Eric is going to quote a line from one of his old songs. It can't rain all the time. And Sarah instantly knows it's Eric. Let's go to the precinct. Albrecht he's pulled the Webster Draven files because he's trying to figure out what's the deal with this conversation he just had with this spooky figure earlier. We're going to get some information about why what happened to the two of them happened. There's a file that says we, the undersigned tenants. Apparently they were fighting tenant eviction, and Top Dollar probably had something to say about that and sent the troublemakers. So I'm giving them that name. Nobody had it's just easier than saying all four of the names, but that's not canon in the movie. So she and Eric were both part of that process. Albrecht has a bunch of pictures of Eric in front of him, and he just starts drawing the makeup that he saw onto the face and realizing, yep, that's the same face. So we're going to see the crow flying again. We're going to look at a stereo. We're going to see Darla and Funboy doing drugs and hooking up. Eric's on the fire escape for all this, just waiting for his moment. And the crow goes into Darla's place. And then Funboy calls the bird. He's like, here, crow. And then Eric comes in with his guitar and he's like, here, Funboy. And Funboy pulls his gun. And Eric sits right in front of the gun, puts his hand directly onto the gun, onto the barrel, and he shoots. Funboy shoots it, and a hole goes through his hand that heals before his very eyes. And Funboy is too high to care. He's going to keep trying to kill this man because that's cool. And Darla is sort of laughing, but do you laugh or do you cry at this point? So we've got Eric faking pain from being shot, but he's healing every time. And then he laughs. And Funboy's seeing this. He's like, Jesus Christ. Eric says, Jesus Christ walks into a hotel. And then he says a religious joke. Funboy keeps shooting. Eric keeps approaching. And then he gets Funboy to shoot himself in the leg. And Darla runs and hides in the bathroom, because this is certainly not going to end well. Funboy passes out from his pain, and Eric is going to pull him into the bathroom where Darla is trying to hide right now. So before he attends to, he'll deal with Funboy later. He just sort of puts him in the bathtub and runs the shower on him. But he goes over to Darla. And in a very touching gesture, knowing that Darla is Sarah's mom, he is going to go over to her. He's going to take her to the mirror, and he's going to make her look at herself. He says, mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children. He says, morphine is bad for you. As he's touching her, the drug pours out of her system. and like where she injected it, the morphine oozes out. And he says, your daughter is out on the streets waiting for you. And she runs out. In fact, when she runs out, she runs past Grange downstairs in the bar, who's currently talking to the pawn shop owner, because Grange came there to say, hey, pawn shop owner, you've got an appointment with Top Dollar, the guy. But he sees Darla running out, and now he's going to go check out what happened with Fun Boy, because what's going on upstairs. As he's going up, we're going to see Eric sticking Fun Boy with a bunch of needles. And by the time Grange gets up there, Fun Boy is ODing pretty much. This will be how it all ends for Fun Boy. So Eric, Grange sees this. He looks at the window. He sees Eric go, shh, and then he backs out through the window. And just so many really good visuals and moments, just like really, I don't know, they're just lasting images from this movie in my head. Also, there's a crow drawn on Fun Boy's chest. So, okay, we're going to see Sergeant Albrecht at home. He's looking at Eric pictures because he can't shake what's happening here with Eric. So we're going to get a creak. Eric actually comes in. Albrecht's like, you were dead. Eric says, you still have your hat on. I love a movie that just has randomness like this. He does still have his hat on. He didn't take off his hat when he came home. He was so distracted by Eric. Eric looks around. He's going to grab a beer for Albrecht to calm his friend down. And he says, Albrecht's like, you some kind of ghost? Eric goes, boo. And then he says, but really, though, tell me what happened to us. And Albrecht gives him the short version, and that's horrific. And then he says, like, Shelley had 30 hours of intensive care. Eric is going to touch Albrecht's face so he can sort of download all of those Shelley moments, get all the pain, and it hurts him physically. And he realizes that Albrecht was there with Shelley the entire time, and that, you know, that's really a beautiful gesture. And this is a friend of his. So Albrecht's like, look, you know, I was hoping she'd wake up, but, you know, she didn't. And that was the end of it. Eric was like, well, what did you do about the whole tenant situation? He's like, nothing. Nobody wanted to talk after there was a double homicide because of this issue. So, you know, this has been wrecking things for Albrecht. He's getting a divorce. This sucked his life away pretty much in a different way than Shelley and Eric, but, you know, still, it affected him. Eric says, you know, I realize that little things meant so much to Shelley, but nothing is trivial. He's going to take Albrecht's cigarette away. He's like, these things will kill you. Eric's going to go, this time he goes out the front door because that's cheeky. And Albrecht says that he's very sorry about what happened to Shelley and to Eric for that matter. All right, we're going to get the pawn shop owner to meet with Top Dollar. Grange, that we're getting our story straight, and we're figuring out that all the things that have been happening are happening by the same guy. It's probably Eric. And the pawn shop owner is like, okay, great. You've solved the mystery. What are you going to do about my business, about my livelihood? He's angry. And Top Dollar is going to throw him the woman's eye because, you know, that's upsetting. And that'll make you think if you want to continue to yell at somebody. Power is in the eyes, he says. He calls Micah his sister at this point, which is unfortunate. And then the owner is going to mention a couple key details. The name Eric Draven. He mentions the crow as an important symbol that seems to be connected with Eric Draven. And that's enough information. Top Dollar is going to stab this guy through the throat and then shoot him. People need to be killed in multiple ways around here. We're going to see Eric playing guitar on the roof of an apartment building. Not the first time not the only time he'll do this. First time we're seeing it. The neighbors must hate this undead guy. Sarah comes home. She's going to pull out the record for Eric's band. It's the group is called Hangman's Joke. Last Laugh is the album name. And she's going to play Eric's song. She sees the crow at the window. She's like, hey, you're the crow. And she goes over and the record starts skipping at the point where Eric sings Can't Rain All the Time. The crow is now going to see T-Bird and Skank. Got to work on those two still. Those are two that we still need to kill. Fun Boy hasn't shown up. They're not sure where he is, but Skank's going to go into the convenience store and get some supplies. Meanwhile, T-Bird is going to get into a car, and a crow lands on the car, and actually Eric's in the back seat. So that's unfortunate for T-Bird. He's going to tell him to drive. He's going to carjack T-Bird. And Skank runs out like, wait, where are you going? And then he's going to run after him so much that he loses focus and he gets hit by a car. He figures, great, he steals that car so that he can tail T-Bird. Now this chase is happening. It's high speed. The police are following. And eventually we have this unfortunate situation where the police and Skank all kind of run into each other. Skank is going to keep running. He's going to get out of the car and keep running so he can try to figure out what's happening with T-Bird. Meanwhile, T-Bird is duct taped to his seat now. Car is stopped. Eric's just getting everything set up. He's duct taped T-Bird to the seat. He's got an explosive that he's going to put in his lap. He bungee cords down he fashions it so that the gas pedal is pushed down. And then he grabs a bunch of lighter fluid and he sort of squirts it on the ground in front of him. The car races off the pier into the water and explodes midair as Eric lights this drawing he's created with lighter fluid on fire, and it's just another crow shape. I mean, it's inventive. He's got artistic skills, this one. We are going to see Grange is going to verify. He's going to go to Eric's grave. Yep, that was dug up. Body is exhumed. All right, check. That was just one of the things he needed to test. Sarah is going to wake up and she's very confused because her mother Darla is actually making a hot breakfast for her, which has happened exactly 0 times in her life. Sarah doesn't like eggs anymore. So I guess it's been more than 0 times, but it's been a long time. Darla's like, but no, you love eggs. She's like, no, I don't. And Sarah doesn't believe that she's being a good mom now. And Darla says, well, I got kind of scared by somebody. Sarah might have a clue who this is. Darla says, I never was good at this mommy shit, was I? And she's just going to try to throw the eggs in the garbage. And Sarah's like, well, over easy. I like my eggs over easy, Mom. Aw. I mean, she's willing to give her another shot. And I think that she's probably aware that Eric has something to do with this. Like, this is not just a random, I'll do better next time where you don't believe it. It's like she might have seen a ghost. All right, so we're going to go to the precinct. Albrecht is being told about T-Bird. Is like, oh yeah, well, arson was his specialty. So I guess, he knows that Eric's killing these people in the style of what they did. He's not particularly interested to pursue it. So his superior is like, you're covering up for something. The guy with the makeup, that's what you're doing. Like, you're suspended. You're suspended for misconduct. All right, fine. Bound to happen, right? They're gonna make it harder for Albrecht. Sarah goes to Eric's apartment. She breaks into it. And Eric was just in there. He was burning his photos and the visions and the memories that come with it. He hears Sarah coming and he hides from her for whatever reason. Sarah's going to enter the apartment. She's calling for Eric. She thinks that he's here, but he's not coming out. She sees the cat. She sees that a fire was just put out and that pictures were being burned. And so she's calling to Eric. And then finally, when he's not coming out, she says, well, to hell with you. I thought you cared. And then we're going to see Eric step in through that really fancy window. And he's like, Sarah, I do care. And then she comes over and they hug. I don't know why he was playing hard to get. He's already seen her. But, here it is. A touching reunion for these two. All right, Skank, the one remaining of the Fire It Up guys, he's at top dollars, and he is just out of his mind with fear and probably with other things. And I just love this whole scene because he is completely unintelligible and very afraid and giving us a ton of exposition, and it's so funny. to have him do so, like, if you had him do this much exposition clear, like with a clear voice and articulate it well, it would probably be annoying. But because we can barely understand a word he says, it's just awesome. So he gets to a point where he's like, fire it up. And he's the only one to do that now. And so it's just sad, Skank. Grange is going to confirm what he knows. The grave is empty. Like whatever he said, and then plus the grave is empty. Skank is like, the ghost is going to kill my ass next. So he knows that there's been a pattern and his number is almost up. Top Dollar says he's not a ghost. Okay, there's probably some way to kill this guy. Micah enters. Apparently everybody has arrived. They're having some sort of leadership meeting. But first we're going to go to the hot dog joint. Sarah has Eric's cat there. Albrecht comes up. They compare notes. They're like, so we both seen him, right? Okay. Albrecht just keeps taking care of Sarah because that's cute. Eric once again is playing guitar on the roof. The neighbors must really hate him for doing this in the middle of the night. He smashes the guitar because who are you going to call about this? And what are you going to say if you're the neighbor? Anyway. Okay. We're going to go to the club, the pit. We're going to meet all of Top Dollar's leadership sitting around a conference table. They're planning for Devil's Night. And now we need to know what the problem is for these folks. So, we're all planning to throw a little party, start a bunch of fires, make a little profit. Micah's like, I like the pretty lights. Okay. Top Dollar says, but here's the thing. It's all been done before. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no creativity in this world. Greedy. If you want to be greedy, you're doing it just like everybody else. It's all about discipline and chaos and anarchy. That's what you need, not greed. He says, Devil's Night is too commercial, pretty much. Eric's listening to all this. What is this mission statement? It's bananas. The new plan, we're going to set a fire so big the gods will notice us. Wow. Okay. All right. So the crow comes into the room and then Eric comes in and he sits right on the end of the conference table. And Skank wants to run, but he's being used as bait to attract Eric. And Eric's like, I just want Skank. Or specifically that guy, he says. And Top Dollar's like, no, that's a hard pass. They all start shooting at Eric. I mean, this is a lengthy action sequence. A lot of people shooting guns, most of them shooting Eric, but Eric is impervious to it. And he's getting weapons one at a time and just slaying everybody around him, except Skank, who's hiding, cowering underneath the table. So eventually, we're going to see him throw Skank. He finally gets Skank and he throws him out the window of the upper floor of this club. And yep, that's the end of Skank. He actually lands on a cop car below. Top Dollar is saying, man. Well, so first of all, the cops come in and they hold up Eric. They figure, well, we've got you now. You've been killing lots of people, even if they're bad. You've been killing them, and that's bad. And undead Eric doesn't care about this. He dances his way out of the room, and they're trying to shoot at him, but Eric is going to evade all of their bullets. Well, he probably is getting hit by the bullets, but they're not affecting him. He ends up on the roof. He is running through the rooftops, getting shot at. There's a helicopter following him, shooting him. He's getting shot. Nothing's happening to him. Meanwhile, Sergeant Albrecht is following by car below, keeping an eye on the roof line. And eventually he gets to a point where he can sneak Eric into his car and get him sort of out from underneath all these eyes. And so Eric, the moment Albrecht has to stop, Eric's going to leave the car and vanish again. That's what he does. So Top Dollar is just ruining the day, or ruining the night for that matter. He's like, the city should be in flames now. Micah says, well, you can take Eric's power from him. The crow is his link between the land of the living and the realm of the dead. Grange is like, okay, so kill the crow, destroy the man. New mission statement. That's the way to go. We're going to see Eric walking with the crow on his shoulder. It must have been interesting having like probably trained birds on set. Eric wants to go home to Shelley. He's killed all the people he needs to kill. Like, what next, really? Sarah is currently sleeping at Shelley's grave. She has an idea that this is probably time to say goodbye. Eric wakes her up. She says, "You didn't say goodbye." He's like, "Yeah, don't hold that against me. I don't say goodbye." She says, "Yeah, but you're never coming back." He's like, "Okay, I've got something better." He gives her the ring, the engagement ring that he gave to Shelley. She says, "And so you'll always remember her." And she says, "I'll never take it off." And she hugs him and it's cute. And Sarah says, "Okay, I'm going home." No, she's not. Grange is going to kidnap her. He's going to bring her into a church that says "demolished by neglect" on it. It's on the nose. Okay, it's on the nose, but it's both the church and Sarah. Top Dollar is going to steal the ring that Eric just gave her, which you just want to. Micah says she has innocent eyes. You stay away from her eyes, Mike. Eric is at Shelley's grave thinking, "I'm about ready to be with you." And he touches her grave, and then he's going to hear Sarah scream, and specifically his name. And he runs to the church, and he's been lured there. The crow flies in. Grange has a gun pointed at Eric, but then he turns it and he shoots the bird. Eric doesn't understand the connection between the bird's health and his own. So the bird gets shot at, and specifically shot, and Eric doesn't know that he's now vulnerable to attack. Eric says, "Give me the girl." Top Dollar shoots him instead, and now he can actually feel it, and he's not healing this time. So Micah's taken Sarah upstairs and like towards the bell tower, and she's tied Sarah up. Grange is going to go to kill the bird, but Albrecht shoots him first. Albrecht's saving the day, and now there's a big firefight that's happening. Micah is going to grab the bird because that's an important component here. And they have Sarah, and Eric explains to Albrecht, like, "I'm not invincible anymore, so we need a new plan." Top Dollar and Micah kiss because they're either not brother and sister or they are. But anyway, Micah has a gun now, and so she shoots Albrecht. And Eric is going to follow Micah because he can still move at least. Albrecht just needs to kind of stay there and not die. Micah has the bird, and she's just about to do something to the bird to do something to Eric, and then the bird picks out her eyes because the eyes have the power. Awesome. Kill by bird. Bird 1, Micah 0. All right, she's going to fall, but on the way down, she first grabs the bell, the rope for the bell. So she starts ringing the bell, and then she falls the rest of the way. Good choice. We needed more ambient noise. Top Dollar has Sarah on the roof. There's still one person to focus on here because Grange is actually dead at this point. Micah is dead, but Top Dollar has Sarah, and that's a big concern. Sarah's clinging to the edge of the roof, and Top Dollar and Eric are going to fight. Eric is going to he's going to break off, I guess, is it a spire on the roof? And he uses it as a sword. And unfortunately, that's not going to be that helpful for Eric because Top Dollar is going to stab Eric with a sword. So, not fast enough, Eric. Top Dollar, he's like, "Look, I like you. You should know that the building was cleared because of me. I'm responsible for clearing that building. Sorry if I ruined your wedding plans, but you've got spunk, man. You've put a smile on my face. I'm going to miss you." Ooh, he's getting a little too cocky, this Top Dollar. Eric, and this part, I don't know if I've fully understood how this works. He touches Top Dollar, and he exports 30 hours of Sarah's pain from intensive care into Top Dollar. I don't know why that works. I would love for somebody to explain that to me. I missed something here. Yes, it can go to him, but can it also go back? Have we seen that? Anyway, But it's a good idea if it works, right? And in this case, it seems to. So he's in so much pain. Top Dollar is thrown off of the roof and he's impaled below on a gargoyle, and blood is pouring out of him, so much blood. And Eric is going to rescue Sarah from the edge of the roof. They're going to check out if Albrecht's okay. He's alive. And he asks for a cigarette. Eric's like, okay, that seems fair for the situation. And so he says, look, Albrecht, your memory has saved me. And Eric gives him a cigarette that he smoked first. And Albrecht's like, oh, so gross. We're going to get sad moments and nostalgic moments and bittersweet moments, but no goodbyes. And Eric disappears. Eric is going to collapse at Shelley's grave, and Albrecht is saved. The authorities find him. They take him, to get taken care of for his wound. Shelley is going to mystically appear in the graveyard, and she's going to touch Eric, and they're going to kiss. And we're going to look, and their graves are covered like they were never opened, or like Eric's was never opened. And then Sarah drops by, and the crow who's sitting on Eric's grave is just going to drop the ring into her hand. She's like, thank you. And then we're going to get Sarah voiceover at the end over the cityscape. She's saying, if the people we love are stolen from us, the way to have them live on is to never stop loving them. Buildings burn, people die, but real love is forever. For Brandon and Eliza. That's not her voiceover, but it says that on the screen. What a beautiful movie. I mean, look, it's beautiful because of the context for me, I think, but also really visually enticing. I think this film, I can really feel that this was a comic book. I should go and check out this comic book, because it would be interesting to see the actual visuals and kind of know. But in my head, I feel like I kind of know, like, oh, this must be from that. And that, like, there are moments where you're like, yeah, this is the image. This is the storyboard. The constant rain is a real mood. The whole town seems to be old and moody and just like bone chilling, and you can feel it. And it's just a great atmosphere that was created. There is a director, Brian Bertino, who has 3 films that he's done on my EEKtober list. And I would say, like, in terms of atmospheric films, his films, I think, are ones that first come to my mind. Movies like The Monster and The Dark and the Wicked and The Stranger. And he does it in a very different way from this. Like, those movies are very slow. They're very like, we're going to stare at this frame for a little while, and then you're going to see something in the corner that you don't like. These are action-packed, right? Very much action-packed. And so the whole vibe around it has to be different because of that. And yet I still feel the atmosphere in a different way. So good. Look, I could talk about this film forever, but that's what I thought about The Crow. What did you think about The Crow? I would love any thoughts that you want to share about The Crow. I just, every time I see this film, I love it. It touches me so much. And then I forget that I had that experience. And the next time I watch it, I have that same feeling and I remember it. And so I would love to know what you think about this one. Feel free to let me know in the comments. And I guess the other thing is, look, I say this for all of my EEKtober films. My ScaryMeter is completely busted. I've seen so many horror movies in my day that I'm desensitized to them. So I don't really know how scary movies actually are, but it would be helpful too, because I make recommendations for movies a lot to people and I want to be able to make appropriate ones. And maybe you want the same thing. So please go ahead and take out your ScaryMeter and rate this movie from 1 to 10 in terms of how scary it is. 1 being not scary, 10 being really scary, and anything in between. So even though I put this on the not too scary list, did I get that right? I don't know. So let me know and we can figure out what that average looks like when we look at the comments later. And yep, so that's this film. And next time we are going to be on day 25 and we are going to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street. That's right. A 1984 slasher film, the first in a franchise of many. Yep, it's time for some Freddy Krueger. That's correct. So can't wait for that one. I hope that you'll join me for A Nightmare on Elm Street. In the meantime, happy EEKtober. Get spooky, get donuts.